Hi guys, welcome to the video. Well, as you can see from the thumbnail, this is an update to the GRBL HotWire Mega 5X that I just released recently. It's gone down really well, but it's highlighted a few areas that need some improvement, and there was a little bug that crept in. Not sure how that got in, but probably down to old age. What I'll also be covering as well is how to easily upload the firmware. What I've been noticing recently, some guys that are not familiar with this type of thing, compiling and uploading firmware, they do struggle that a little bit. So this is an easy way to upload the firmware that's pre-compiled, and then you can just go in to do the configuration. And then another area that sort of came up from the feedback was that some of the settings in the limit switches can be a little bit confusing. So we'll just go over the settings again to make them a bit clearer. So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll get on to looking at the update. So first of all, guys, once again, thanks to all those that downloaded the new software and firmware. It seems to have gone down very well. I was quite nervous about releasing it, actually. I was wondering whether I was going to get just inundated with errors and problems, and there has been a few little issues, and that's really what this update's about. Although I can test it as much as I can, I probably don't have the same workflows you do, so you might be using different tools to generate your G-code and different settings. So I can't possibly trap every error. So otherwise, I'd never get any building done, and that's the thing I enjoy doing. I enjoy doing this as well, but I'd like to do some building as well. So what we'll do is we'll just cover what's been updated and take you through that, and I think you'll find it's a much better program than it was previously. So the first problem was that there was a bug crept in. And that was to do with homing and that. So we'll go over that and tell you what's happened there. The other thing that as well, I've now got it to size the preview of the profiles equally. So when it loads it up, it will size them equally, which looks a lot better. One of the other issues that some guys came up to me with was that they'd load a G-code file in, and there was no preview of the wire path, on the XY and the UV, the XY and the UZ view. And I had noticed that before, and I was a little bit puzzled about that, but that's now been fixed, so I'll explain what's happened there. I've done a big update to the HotWire control. I do have some guys contact me that are struggling to get good control of the wire. They either haven't got the equipment to power the wire, and so I thought I'd take another look into the actual HotWire control, and to be honest, I've now got it working really well, and there's a few reasons for that, so we'll cover that later as well. And the other thing that I've done as well, I've included some macros. You may have noticed on the software there's a page for macros, so if we just bring it up, there's a setting there for macros. So on the new software, I've included one in there called Slice, which is quite handy for when you're slicing your foam up. So we'll cover that as well. So this is the old one at the moment. And the other thing I've done as well is the keyboard control. There was an axis missing. So if we have a look at if you look at the keyboard control there, we've got X, Y, Z, there's no U. So I've improved that quite a bit as well. So this is the old version at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll go in to have a look at the new version. So the bug that crept in was to do with me uploading the wrong file to the website in for the Arduino IDE to compile. A guy from, I think he lives fairly close to me here in South Yorkshire, John Lovell, picked it up, and the problem is, and I'll put a shot up to show you that what happens is when you home the machine, instead of getting all zeros in the home, what happens is you'll see some negative numbers. So the big numbers in the display are the work coordinates, and the smaller numbers are the machine coordinates. And what was happening, these weren't going back to zero. Now I had seen this as a problem when I was testing, and I fixed it, but somehow the wrong file got uploaded. So that's now been fixed. So there was a few guys that picked up on that. So So that's now been fixed now. So if you download the latest firmware, that's all been done. So let's go over some of the terminology to do with homing and limits. Now, the most confusion seems to arrive over what hard limits and soft limits are. So to start with, if you are not using end stops or limit switches and you haven't got homing enabled by having $22 set to equal to 1, then none of this will make any difference. So if you're not using homing, just ignore this section and go on to the next bit. But if you have got homing enabled and you're not quite sure what these hard limits and soft limits are, what we'll do, we'll just go over them. And I must admit, when I first started looking at this, I was a little bit confused as well what soft limits and hard limits are. You would tend to think soft limits are to do with if you haven't got any physical switches installed on your machine, but it's not. It's only to do with when you've got homing enabled and you've at least got some switches installed. So if we have a look at the diagram here, so I've taken a shot of the foam cutter. These were done in Fusion 360. So as you can see there, I've got the bracket for the switch there, and we're on, so this is potentially the y-axis, and we've got the micro switch there. So this is in what's called the wire min position, if this was the y-axis. So with soft limits, what we do, we just have one switch that's at this the minimum setting, and then what we do then, we then tell the machine through the through $130 to $133, I think. You then tell the machine how far it can travel. So on this axis, I think I've got about 400 millimeters of travel. So that's soft limit. So basically what happens, it homes and it finds its zeroth position. And as it starts traveling, it knows how far it's going. So if it gets to 400, it will just stop. So you've no need for a switch at the top there. So when I first started foam cutting, I was using Mach 3, and on my foam cutter then, I had switches down at the bottom here and up at the top. And to be honest, after a while, I just removed them. The chances of it going right to the end are quite slim, because if you're foam cutting, you're probably there watching what's happening. And, you know, if you just walked away and left it to run, then, you know, you're probably risking something going wrong. So, and all it does, it adds a load more extra wiring and potential for errors. And I did have a few occasions where I had problems with the wires breaking, and, you know, it took a long while to trace. So my advice really is just to use a switch at the bottom. So if we have a look on the next picture, a switch at the top and a switch at the bottom. So this is called hard limits. So you never use soft limits and hard limits together. It's always one or the other. So in this situation here, we wouldn't have anything set in soft limits in $130 to $133, and we would then enable hard limits by setting. So we would then enable hard limits by setting $21 to 1 and then $20 to 0. So I think actually in the firmware it will only let you set one or the other. If you set one, the other one goes, flips the other one. I think that's how it works. So that's one of the areas of confusion over hard and soft limits. And then the other area that can cause you a little bit of a problem is going in the wrong direction. And a few people have asked me, how do I change that? So if you look on the website, the table that's there, and I'll put a link up to show you, the table there when it says check axis direction, that table also applies for the changing the homing direction. So all you would do is, if you found the direction going wrong, you would look up in the table here as which one you needed to change, and then put that value into your setting, which is, which one is it? Yeah, $1.23. So I hope that's cleared up some of the confusion over hard and soft limits. And my advice for you really, just use the switches at the min on the X min, Y min, Z min and U min, and it means a lot less wiring, and then just put in the soft limits. So all you need to do is just, once you've got it set up on your home in, just keep jogging it until as far as you think it's safe to go. Note down that value and then put that value into $1.30 to $1.33. So hopefully that's cleared up the issue over homing. I'm sure it won't, and I'll get some more questions. So, okay, then we'll go on to the next section. So one issue that came from the feedback was some guys were struggling to compile and upload the firmware. They were getting all sorts of errors, and I suppose if you haven't done this type of thing before, it can seem a little bit daunting. So what I did is I looked into see if we could provide an easy way to do that, and luckily I found a way using a utility called Xloader, which some of you probably might have heard of. But I've pre-compiled the firmware, and all we need to do is go on the website. Let's just bring the browser up. Just go on to the, and I've created a post in there explaining how to do it all, but we'll go through it here. So we go on to CNC software, and then easy way to upload the CNC foam cutter firmware. So we click on that, and all the instructions are there of what you need to do. But basically we just need to download this file here. We'll just save it into downloads. It's not very big, so it shouldn't take that long to download. Now if we go into the folder and then just, so we just extract it to downloads. And we'll go and find that. There we go, Xloader. So all we need to do then, plug your Mega in. I've got my little demo rig here. So plug the Mega into your computer. Then we'll just run up Xloader, and you can see there we've got the GRBL upload.ino.hex. That's the precompiled firmware. So we do load. Then just make sure you've got the right device selected there. So you can see we've got the Mega 1280, which is the wrong one there. So we'll go to Mega 2560, and that selects the correct baud rate for us. Then we go to port, so we're on COM3. Yours may be different. And all we need to do then is browse for the hex file. So it's found it anyway. So go to there, hex file. And all we do then is press upload. There we go, uploading. It doesn't take very long. There we are. And it says bytes uploaded. So just to confirm it's working okay, what we can do is just start the Arduino IDE. So you don't actually need the Arduino IDE anymore to do this if you're doing it this easy way. But if you have got it, you go into Tools, Serial Monitor, and we've got COM3, and you see it's brought it up straight away. So if we do $$ for all the settings, there we are, we've got all the settings in there. So that's a real easy way to upload the firmware. So the guys that were struggling have used that, and they found it's easier. So so if you've been struggling with that one, I hope that one helps you out. Right, something else that came up that didn't actually stop the machine from working, but if I bring up the old software and show you, so we'll just full screen it. So we go to load a file in, and I'll go to, where are we? Downloads. And we'll load this file in here. As you can see, it loads a file in, but we get no display. So this was to do with the way the original program was written. It was expecting the G code in a particular format. So I'll put some examples up to show you. What it was expecting a space between each axis command, and it was expecting in a particular order. So that was one of the problems you got. So if you uploaded the file with the correct setup, that one, let's try that one. Yeah, so if you loaded it with the file in the correct format, it displayed OK. So on the new program, so we'll just come out of this one. We'll go into the new one. You can install the new one alongside the old one as well if you want to, which I'd probably advise you to do just to make sure it's OK before you commit to it. So on the new version, if we go into downloads, and if we do that first one there, we see it loads OK now. Now if we look at this file, you can see there's no spaces, and we've even got 2-digit G commands. So we've got G01 instead of G1. So that took quite a lot of figuring out that did. So it should work with all formats of files now. So I've got a few examples there. So we've got 2-digit with spaces. So that's uploaded OK. And then if we do a JediCut file, it's all the same file, so it doesn't look like it's doing anything, but it is actually. So that's now been fixed. And the other thing you'll notice as well, the display sizes correctly. So it's now set to display half and half. So I think that's what you'll find with it as well. When you load a new file in, it will resize it. So if you have moved it, so if we do move it like that, now what you'll find is when you go to run the code, that the actual path the wire takes will be offset and it'll look a bit of a mess. So if we just reload the file in, which one was it? 2 digits, space incremental, that one. So that one. So reload it in, it resets the display. So that's a little bit better as well. So the next area I took a look at was the HotWire control, because I've had a few guys contact me, and one of the biggest problems they're having is getting good HotWire control. And that's the key to getting good foam cutting. You know, if you can get the wire going correctly without dragging, and with the right kerf value, so it's not burning too much away, that's going to give you the best cuts. So I decided to take another look at this HotWire control, because I felt that it should work, but for whatever reason it wasn't. And actually what happened when I looked into it, the change from the older firmware to the 1.1 firmware, there was a change the way this control worked. And in the last release that I released, it probably wouldn't work very well anyway. So even if you moved it a slight amount, it would give the full power to the wire. And I did have a guy contact me with that problem. So what I've also done, on the settings page as well, the settings have changed a little bit. We've got the input voltage here for the ramps board, and then we've got the start value. So what I found during my testing was that there was no real way to record where you wanted the power of the wire to be. So I added this in there now, and what will happen is when you change that value there, it will update. So when you start cutting and you find a good setting, and I've changed this to a slider now, not a slider, I think they call it a tracker this now, track bar, and you can just click and move it up to various settings. So what happens now is when you press set temperature, it will actually change the colour there to red to show it's on. That was one of the requests as well from one of the guys as well, to say, could we have some indication to say it's on? So that tells you that it's on, and then when we switch off, it goes back off again and we get an off there. But say you found 4.8 volt was giving you the right amount of current. What you can do then is, if you go into start value, if you put 4.8 in there, just hit enter and refresh. When we load the foam cutter back up, so if I just disconnect now, so I come out of the program and load the program back up, it should retain that value. Yeah, so it's already started back up at 4.8, and in settings there we've got 4.8 there. So once you find a good setting, you can store that there without having to wonder, you know, what value it was. And then as you move this as well, you can see it updating the value there. I've also spent some time checking the temperature of the wire. So I'll put a bit of video up and I'll explain what's going on in that next section. But basically what I did is I got bought myself a new multimeter which has got a temperature probe on it, and I actually did some testing. So I'll show that in the next section. But I think you should find this control now works a lot better. The problem I had with it before, it was very difficult to get any good control over it. So what you can do as well, if you just click on the actual little arrow, you can use the arrow keys, and you can see it, you can move it in very small increments now, which should give you enough. Now I found with my testing 3.9 volts gave me a good temperature on the wire, and I'll show you that in the next section. So if I go back into settings, what I would do then was then set that to 3.9. Hit enter to make sure it saved it. I don't think you need to press refresh, but that just makes sure it gets saved anyway. So when we load it up, that will be at 3.9. So I think that's going to work a lot better, and I'll show you the testing I did with the temperature as well to work out what would be the best. So as you know, guys, in most of the videos you've seen to do with the foam cutter, I've always said I use my eye charger because I hadn't found the temperature control very good on the ramps board. So the main issue really was getting fine control over the temperature. So I think now with what I've just shown you, we should get a better control. But what I wanted to do was to find out how I could get a similar setting from the ramps board as I do with my eye charger. So what I decided to do was to buy a multimeter, a clamp one actually, with a temperature probe. And I thought, well, if I set that to what I know I get a good cut from, and then measure the temperature, and then do the same with the hot wire control. So if you have a look here, you can see here I've got my eye charger set up, and I've set it to my normal current for cutting polystyrene foam. So I've set it up to about 2.3 amps, then given it a chance to get warm, and then check the temperature. And I found the temperature to be round about between about 120 and 130 degrees. I'll put the Fahrenheit ones in as well. So I switched it on, let it stabilise for a bit, and I checked it along the wire in different places, but it was the same everywhere along the wire. But one of the things that you may be wondering, well, is that going to be accurate enough? Well, I don't suppose it has to be too accurate. All I'm doing is comparing the eye charger with the ramps board. So even if there was some inaccuracy, I'd get an idea of what the same setting would be on the ramps board. So what I did then is I then connected the ramps board up to the wire, and I use an XT60 connector between the two, so I can just swap over dead easy. So what I did then, I tried
setting the temperature, I think I started off at about 3 volts. So what I did then, I just kept bringing it up slowly till I got around about 130 degrees. And I found that to be around about 3.9 volts on my setup. So the voltage will depend on the wire you've got and the length of the wire. So, and what I did then is I then saved that in the startup value, and I run some test cuts, and I'll just put some video in the test cuts, which you'll see in a minute, and actually they've come out very similar. So I think now we've got to grips with this temperature control, and I think the issue was really not having fine enough control over the wire with the slider. So now we've got this control here now. I think I'm going to carry on using it like this, and because it will be a bit easier for me, because every time I want to do some foam cutting, I've got to then move my iCharger from my charging station across onto the foam cutter. So what I suggest, guys, is give it another try, see what you think to it, and then let me know in the comments as well how it's working for you. But so far I found it's working a lot better, and I'll carry on using it. I've speeded it up a bit because it's not the most interesting thing to watch foam being cut. So, and what I was doing while it was cutting as well, I was just standing. So what I was doing while it was cutting as well, I was just leaning over the top just to make sure the wire wasn't dragging or anything. And actually it cut really well. I was quite pleased with the way it cut. So, and the telling part really is the little square spars. So, you know, if you haven't got it right, that can really show up, you know, when you've got your curve failure wrong and the speed wrong. So yeah, so that worked really well, that did. So let's go on. I'll show you what I did on the iCharger. So here we are now with the iCharger set up, as you can see in the background. And unfortunately I didn't have any more black foam without going and cutting some more pieces up. So I've got the iCharger set at a normal setting, about 2.3 amps, and then I just set it going to do exactly the same cut on my normal 2.3 amps on white foam, and then and it just cut as I expected, so it normally cuts okay on that. So what we'll do then is we'll go on and we'll have a look at the final result. So I'm just taking all the bits out here, and so that looks quite good. And unfortunately, as I said, I didn't have any black foam, so there we are, the exact same cut and running around about the same temperature. So so that looks to work really well now. So I'll carry on trying using the ramps board now. So let me know how you get on, guys, as well, if you're finding it's working better. And I think with the finer control now on the application, we should be able to get better cuts with it now, because that is one area where guys do seem to struggle. And you know, guys have struggled with LiPo chargers. Some of them work, but some of them shut off after a period of time. But I think now this works really well, so give it a try and let me know. So I thought this might be a nice little addition to add in the update. You may have noticed on the interface there's a tab there called macros, and you can create a macro, and in that macro you can put any valid G code in there. So what I've done is I've created a macro called slice, and basically what it does is for getting your foam blocks prepared at the right sizes, which is something in the past I've done with a bow and that, and I'll just put a little bit of video up showing you how I used to do that. It works really well, but it just takes a lot of setting up, and so I thought I'll try and do it a better way with a macro. So as you can see from the video, basically all we do is we just position our wire to where we want the 0 point to be, and then raise it up to a height suitable enough so you can pass your foam underneath. And then, I mean, as you can see here, I'm just raising the foam block up here, and you can use the arrow keys to do that, or you can just click on the mouse clicks. I find the arrow keys are a little bit better now. You just need to enable them on the settings page. Sometimes when you click, it takes like a double click. So I've just put a little bit of test foam in here to show you how it works. And so I'll just raise it up a little bit more. And then all we do then is, I've got a line marked on the foam, so I just position it and just keep jogging down very slowly until your mark gets lined up. And then if you have a look where the MDI setting is, the manual data input, you can see there's a button there called slice. So once you click on that slice button, it will just go down. So make sure your wire's hot first of all. Yeah. So just double checking the wire here, make sure it's hot. Yeah. And then we click on the macro slice. And there she goes. So by doing it this way, at least you know you've got a straight cut. And you might be able to go a little bit faster here as well. I tend to work on the slow side when I'm foam cutting. I prefer it to go a little bit slower and not so high temperature, and you do tend to get a finer cut with that. There we go, it'll fall off now. And so we've got a nice perfectly straight cut there. And afterwards what will happen is the wire will go up. Now at the moment I think I've got it just set to go up 50 millimeters. But you can, within the macro, it's fairly straightforward. You can alter that if you want. It does just come forward very slightly as well, so it doesn't catch the foam on the way back up. But I hope you might find that's a useful addition. I'm using it all the time now. So as I mentioned in the introduction, guys, I've fixed the missing U key on the settings page for the U repeat rate. So if you look on the settings page, you can see we've got all four there now. And we can enable the keyboard arrows, it says there. And I've just put a little legend there to show you which are the actual keys that, because I had to go through the actual code and look into it and find out which keys were doing what. So while I was there, I thought I'd add some jogging to move both axes at the same time, which is quite handy when you want to line up a piece of foam. So the keys there are, for the X, we've got left and right arrow. For the Y, we've got up and down arrow, which is fairly self-explanatory. And then to do the Z and U, all we do is we just hold control down. So for Z, it's just hold control and up and down, and U, control and left and right arrow keys. So to jog both carriages, I've decided to use page up, page down to go up and down, and then end to bring the carriages forward, and then back to move it back. Now the distance it moves depends on the distances you have set in your jogging. So on the main interface, so on mine here I've got 1, 10, 50 and 100. So depending whether you've got metric or inches selected, but you can change that as well. If you go onto the settings page where you've got jogging, you can see there's different rates there. You can set for feed rates and feed increments there, so you can change all that if you want to as well. But so I'm now using that more than using the mouse, because I find when you use the mouse, what happens is it sometimes takes more than one click, and it does it 2 times on you. I've even had it do it 3 times on me, and you think, hang on, what's going on here? But so I'm finding the keys, the keyboard arrows are a bit better. So I hope you find that's useful, guys, and let me know in the comments again. So So guys, that brings us to the end of the video. So I hope this update proves useful to you. I think it addresses some of the issues that I got feedback on, and one or two other improvements as well. So let me know in the comments, and drop me an email if you want to. Just let me know how you got on with it. I think it's a much better program, and the thing that's I've been most impressed with is the HotWire control. That seems to work really well now. While I was making the video, I had 1 or 2 issues with my little demo rig here, which you've seen in other videos. And what's happened is the actual ramps board has failed on me. So it's not a genuine ramps board. It's not the genuine Arduino. But what's happened with it, I've noticed it once or twice before. It was losing USB connection, and when it's plugged into the USB now, what happens just round about here, and there's a little tiny chip there. You can just see down there next to where the power connector is, and that gets extremely hot, and it won't even connect now. To start with, I thought it was my old HP laptop that was causing the problem, but it wasn't. It was this. So rather than getting another Arduino board, I've been looking at the MKS Gen L boards, because they're an Arduino and a ramps board all built in one, but they've got a few advantages as well, that you can use some of the very latest steppers on them as well, the silent drive steppers, but they also run at 24 volts. So I've put one on order, not got it yet, so when that comes in, I'll give that a try as well, and probably do a video on setting it up for the foam cutter. The reviews on them are quite good, so I think the quality is a little bit better on the MKS boards. So I also intended to include a few other sections in this video. There's going to be a section on foam cutters you can buy, because I do get guys ask me if I can build them a foam cutter, but sadly I can't offer that facility, mainly for health reasons, and I'm suffering from arthritis in my hips and hands and knees, and it means I can't spend too long in the workshop before I have to give up. So, but I know some guys would like to be able to buy one, so there's a couple of places you can get foam cutters from now. So in the next video I'll go over that. There was also there's a guy in Germany called Thomas that's been building a foam cutter. You might have seen my post on the community channel where you don't need a PC. So I'll cover that in the next video. It was just making this video far too long, and rather than, so what I thought I'd do is I'd do a separate video, because I was trying to chop the videos down too much to fit them in. So I think it's better to make a separate video on them, and we'll cover them in the next video. And there's also some guys who contacted me with some problems with JediCut. There's posted on the website if you've had problems with JediCut. Just follow that and it should get you working, but I'll cover that in the next video as well. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Keep a look out for the next video, which should be fairly soon, because I've got most of the content done. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.